Merry Christmas Eve, ladies and gentlemen. So, how about I give you a little bit of an early Christmas present and talk about the new Avatar? Now, I'm gonna make this very clear from the beginning. I'm gonna try and just make this a overall review of what I think about this movie because there is a lot I could say about this, but I'm gonna try and just limit it and just say and give my overall thoughts and opinions on this movie and also overall the Avatar franchise as a whole because especially those who have followed my channel know that I reviewed the second one. I watched the second one. It broke my record the most amount of times I've seen a movie in theaters, and I posted a review saying that I might have overhyped the second movie. And the more I watched it, the more I realized why I ultimately, you know, overhyped it and watched it, enjoyed it, and just kind of ignored all the flaws the movie supposedly had. And now that we're on the third one, I'm going to make this blatantly clear. If you were not a fan of the second movie, this movie doubles down on everything the second movie does. Now, I'm sure somewhere down the line, I will re-review this movie. I will go back to it, maybe give my thoughts and opinions on overall what I, overhyped about this movie specifically. So, like I said, this movie doubles down on everything that the second movie. This is essentially a continuation of the second movie while simultaneously doing something with the other films as well. And this is where I'm going to be honest here. The movies do feel repetitive, especially this one. This movie combines both the first one and mainly this is a continuation of the second movie, to be honest. Avatar's kind of standalone at the moment. Avatar 2 continues the saga, and then Avatar 3 kind of continues off the second one, but also the first movie. You get some bunch of returning characters, obviously from the second one, but also from the first movie. Even down to, and this is where I mean this movie gets repetitive. I don't have a whole lot of complaints about this movie because I personally really enjoyed it. This being my second time. I watched it twice in theaters in IMAX 3D. I want to see it more, but obviously I gotta pace myself. I'm not gonna watch this movie an absurd amount of times in the theater. I probably still will, but that's besides the point. So, this movie, I don't have a whole lot of complaints outside of the fact that it is starting to get repetitive because down to the final battle, it feels like essentially a redux of the Way of Water's finale with, the animals rising up, sea creatures rising up. I mean, even has the whales just flopping all over the deck, and as cool as it is, I was just like, yeah, this is essentially the same thing as the second movie, but it was still cool to see. And then obviously the Ash people and the rest of the Na'vi, they're fighting, Toruk Makto's back, and all that stuff is clashing, arrows are flying nuts to butts, people are dying, explosions are over the place. It's essentially a redux of the first movie and the second movie in terms of their big conclusions, and this movie really just lets you bask in that. I mean, it literally is just a redux of the first two movies. Repetitive, yes, but in my opinion, pretty damn awesome. Now I'm going to get into some of the acting. Jake Sully, Sam Worthington as Jake Sully, it does a pretty decent job. Even though he's not given a whole lot to do, I do appreciate the fact that, he does a good job as this character. Neytiri, Zoe Saldana, knocks it out of the park. I gotta be honest, I give massive props for at least letting her have a lot more to do in this movie than the second one where she was pretty much a background character. At least in this movie, I mean, she does a lot. And I mean, this is mainly just a grief type of movie, just the Sully family trying to work their way around. Spoiler warning here for the second movie, those of you who haven't seen it. When Neteyam, oh my god, I couldn't figure out his name for a minute. When Neteyam died, I'm shocked I even remembered the name, as forgettable as these movies honestly can be. I'll get more into that in the conclusion. When Neteyam dies in the second movie, this movie kind of just follows off of that grief. And Loak, the other son, he does a fantastic job, and he's given more to grow as a character. there's a certain moment where there are two moments in this where I wish they kind of followed through with the darker elements, and that's another issue I have with this movie. It plays it too safe. Again, spoiler warning here for two scenes that really got under my skin in the best and worst way. Loak, after having a blowout with Jake, he then grabs a gun, goes to the beach, and he contemplates killing himself, and he gets close before throwing the gun. Again, very heavy content, and for those of you who have, unfortunately, been through some mental health issues, it can be relatable. Haven't been there myself, and I was in a dark place for like years ago. This scene definitely did hit. But then there was a part of me that just wished that maybe they went darker with it. Like, I'm not saying he should have shot himself on camera, but maybe if there was like a little bit of like more of that darker element, I feel like my next argument is going to make more sense. So there's another scene, happens in well into the movie, where Spider, he rescues Jake, and Neytiri is also there, and due to the circumstances of the story, they believe that Spider is a liability and he needs to be killed. And it's a really dark moment. It's really well built up, and it's a moment that really, really was so well done. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat, and by the end of it, I was damn near crying. Actually, I was kind of crying by the eventual climax of this sequence. But Jake then, like, forces Spider down and essentially prepares to kill him. And it's a very emotional moment, and it's very... And I, for a brief moment, thought Spider was going to die. Jake was going to kill him, and it was going to set off a whole new... It was going to present Avatar 4 and 5 into a new, interesting, darker direction. And I was like, ooh, this is getting really good and dramatic. And unfortunately, again, spoiler alert here, it does not happen. And even though, like I said, I did cry during this part, I did cry during this part. And even though it was a very well done emotional moment, there was still a part of me that was just like, damn it, you could have committed to the bit and made it more darker. That would have opened up a whole interesting storyline here. But unfortunately, it plays it too safe. Spider lives, and like I said, it's an emotional moment. Neytiri accepts him as part of the family, says, I see you. Everyone's hugging by the end. Now, don't get me wrong, this movie is a darker follow-up of the second movie, but this movie is really just like Way of Water. And just like that movie, I didn't have a whole lot of issues. The action, as per usual with the Avatar movies, are a freaking spectacle. I just knocked something over, good lord. I'm just going to continue recording just so I can get my thoughts out of the way. So the action in these movies are really spectacular, as always, and still get my adrenaline pumping and still make me excited. Why I love James Cameron. He can direct action, specifically sci-fi action, that is just, it gets your blood pumping. I mean, I saw this with a buddy of mine, and we both couldn't contain our excitement during the action scenes. There's one where the Tulkun, like I said, are flopping on the deck, when the animals are coming by. I mean, it is just really cool. There's even just background stuff that I'm just like noticing, just in the background. And I'm like, ooh, this is cool. Seeing Jake fly Toruk Makto again and just flinging helicopters into each other. People are dying. Arrows are flying. People are catching on fire. It's really damn cool stuff. And the effects are really cool. But this kind of does get into a small nitpick, kind of a complaint, where admittedly, as good as the effects are, it does look like a video game, and the high frame rate doesn't help with that. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mind the high frame rate. I definitely gotten used to it after watching Avatar 2 so many times, and admittedly, I'm probably going to watch this a bajillion times as well. So admittedly, it does still take time getting used to. It does look janky at times, and unfortunately, it still looks like a video game, especially in this modern age. Like, even though the effects are really good, you can't help but go like, it still looks like a video game. You have to admit that. But the effects still really kick ass. And that's really what you're here for, is the action and the effects. You're not here for the story, which I will get into because, like I said, with the repetitive nature of this movie, the story doesn't do anything new. Now, don't get me wrong, this movie does have some new clans like the Ash people. Like I said, they're the only interesting part of this movie. Varang, Una Chaplin that plays Varang, the villain, Ness in this movie, her, Courage, and Stephen Lang, those two, working off each other in eventual romance, knocked it out of the park. Stephen Lang is having the time of his life playing, the Colonel. I'm not going to say his name. I honestly forgot it. I'm probably going to mispronounce it. I think it's Courage. Yeah, it's Courage. But even though he is just knocking it out of the park, there is just a lot of good chemistry here. But unfortunately, they're not given a whole lot to do, along with, because they introduce so much, there's only so little you can, introduce. This movie may be long, but it's still sidelined so much. The Wind Traders get, 20 minutes max, maybe even less. I have to time it because they show up in the first half of this movie and then never again. And they were built up. It's like a new clan, and they literally just show up, and then the Ash people attack and sets the whole events of the movie in place. Admittedly, back to the story part. If you remember my Avatar: The Way of Water review, I predicted exactly where the film could go, even on opening day. The second they went to the Water Clan, I knew exactly where the story was going to go. I will admit with this movie, there were moments where I was just like, oh, is this where the story's going to go? Okay, it's not going the way I expected, but it's still going, it's still moving. So admittedly, it's not as predictable, but there are so many moments, particularly from the second movie, that they are just literally recycling. I'm like, yep, that's from the second movie, all right. And it does kind of make me just, think back towards the second film a lot more than I probably should. But it's not like a massive complaint. But those of you that are looking for something new, you're not going to get that. Like I said, goes back to the first movie and essentially is The Way of Water Redux. I mean, you still get the Payakan storyline, you get the whales getting killed storyline. So it doesn't do anything new for this franchise, but it's still really cool. At least it looks pretty and the effects are pretty cool. Okay, I'm gonna obviously kind of give the movie credit, and like I said, I'm a huge Avatar fan, in case you couldn't tell from my very obvious room decorations. I love these movies, and I am interested to see where they continue this franchise, especially if this makes money. Despite the fact that James Cameron said he's done, it depends on the success of this one. I hope this overall does succeed, and he does complete his saga. Because I genuinely believe there is still, I believe 4 and 5 will knock our socks off. We'll do something new with this series. We're now reaching the point where everything's been introduced, with Pandora, and we are now just kind of getting started with everything. Like James Cameron said, this closes out the Avatar saga. Unfortunately, I know a lot of critics do not like this film. I personally don't get it.
What the hell have you people been smoking out there?
But anyway, I digress. I enjoy this franchise. I enjoyed this movie. I love this series. It's just really entertaining for me. All the problems for me can all be wiped away because I love me some good action. I love me some good effects. And you know what? If I can be transported to a really, really cool world, that is the magic of cinema for me. That is the magic of movies. You can be transported to a whole different planet and just be immersed for 3 hours and barely feel like anything is dragging. And I mean, no bathroom breaks for me either. I mean, granted, I did pee long before the movie began. Also, I gotta give huge props to my theater. Despite the fact they showed a 6-minute sequence from one of the movies, The Odyssey, that's releasing, which I do want to go see, it showed a 6-minute preview from that movie. The good news is, it was really damn cool and really freaking awesome. But I do give massive props to my theater for not having 30 minutes of previews, especially since my theaters in town, especially the one in downtown, it's been guilty of showing like 40 minutes worth of previews. So at least I give credit. They just showed a fair few. And obviously, you're probably wondering, what about the Avengers Doomsday trailer? I'm not getting into that right now, but all I'm going to say is it definitely happened. I saw the Avengers Doomsday trailer. I'll give my thoughts and opinions on that when that day comes, but until then, I enjoyed this movie. I enjoy this series, and I feel like this is a movie you should take. This is a good date. This is a fun movie for a date night, for a buddy's night, a family outing. You're flying solo to the movies. This is just a really good comfort movie for the holidays. Anyway, take it easy, everyone. Happy holidays, and I will see you tomorrow on Christmas Day. That's about it. See ya.